That's not the question. You and I, you have said
you're asking me, Senator, you're asking me not to sue vaccine pharmaceutical companies. Yeah, you are. That's exactly what you're doing.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is a must watch. Tensions are erupting as RFK Jr. and Senator Elizabeth Warren are going head to head in a rather fierce Senate confirmation showdown right now, guys. I appreciate you guys, by the way, hitting the like button. Thank you so much for sharing this video. Appreciate all my new subscribers. Guys, the White House just rescinded a funding freeze, but this is not stopping senators from grilling RFK Jr. on his past lawsuits and his financial ties. And so the question is this a legitimate hearing, or is this just like a political trap, right? And we've got live updates from Capitol Hill. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. faces tough questions as he fights for his nomination as Secretary of Health and Human Services, guys. But when Senator Elizabeth Warren presses him on big pharma, vaccines, policies, and Medicaid, let's just say things quickly get heated and borderline out of control.
Warren. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, Mr. Kennedy, I want to start with something that I think you and I agree on, and that is that Big Pharma has too much power in Washington. You've said that President Trump asked you to, quote, clean up corruption and conflicts. Sounds great. You've said that you will, quote, slam shut the revolving door between government agencies and the companies they regulate. That also sounds great. So here's an easy question. Will you commit that when you leave this job, you will not accept compensation from a drug company, a medical device company, a hospital system, or a health insurer for at least 4 years, including as a lobbyist or a board member?
Can you just repeat the last part of the question? Can I commit
You're not going to take money from drug companies in any way, shape, or form.
Who? Me?
Yes, you.
Oh. Yeah, I'm happy to commit to that.
Okay, good. That's what I figured. I said it's an easy question to start with. And I think you're right on this question.
I don't think any of them want to give me money, by the way.
Let's
Oh, man, you got to love RFK Jr. here. First of all, he's already making fun of Senator Elizabeth Warren. How many of you guys are tired of Senator Elizabeth Warren? Do we want to see her hang out any longer? I mean, she tried to really take down Trump during his campaign, and even afterward. I don't know, guys. Y'all let me know what you think about Senator Elizabeth Warren on this one. But RFK Jr., he knows how to handle himself in this particular Senate hearing confirmation. Check this out.
Keep going. You're right, because to say yes, because every American has the right to know that every decision you make as our #1 health officer is to help them and not to make money for yourself in the future. So I want to talk more about money. I'm looking at your paperwork right now. In the past 2 years, you've raked in $2.5 million from a law firm called Wisner Baum. You go online, you do commercials to encourage people to sign up with Wisner Baum to join lawsuits against vaccine makers. And for everyone who signs up, you personally get paid. And if they win their case, you get 10% of what they win.
Now that's interesting. Have any of you guys signed up for any kind of like vaccine related lawsuits? And do you believe in vaccines? Like, because there are people who have had some pretty severe side effects. And at this point, I feel like I'm just wondering how many people actually trust them right now.
So if you bring in somebody who gets $10 million, you walk away with $1 million. Now, you just said that you want the American people to know you can't be bought. Your decisions won't depend on how much money you could make in the future. You won't go to work for a drug company after you leave HHS. But you and I both know there's another way to make money. So, Mr. Kennedy, will you also agree that you won't take any compensation from any lawsuits against drug companies while you are secretary and for 4 years afterwards?
Well, I'll certainly commit to that while I'm secretary. But I do want to clarify something, because you're making me sound like a shill. I put together that case. I did the Science Day presentation to the judge on that case to get it into court without her hearing.
Mr. Kennedy, it's just a really simple question.
I don't know if it's me, but is Senator Elizabeth Warren being a little bit rude here? I mean, if my memory serves me correctly, didn't Robert F. Kennedy Jr., RFK Jr., like survive a stroke? So, and correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but usually stroke victims, they have issues speaking, communicating afterward. Perhaps they, lose functionality to some part of the body, but it's frequently affecting their ability to speak and communicate. And Elizabeth Warren is just like interrupting RFK as he attempts to defend himself, because as you listen to her line of questioning, she cleverly wraps the question inside of an attack. And it's like initially, I'm sure you guys heard, initially she was making sure that RFK Jr. wouldn't profit or make money from drug companies, medical device makers, yada, yada, yada. And we passed that bridge. He said no, he wouldn't make any money, now or even 4 years after. And he even doubted that they would ever want to pay him anything, because he's pretty much anti to a lot of these drug companies. And so now what Elizabeth Warren is attempting to do, the senator is trying to corner him. And so to a point where she wants to make it so that Robert F. Kennedy Jr. can't make any money doing anything. And I think that this is really dirty. I feel like it's dirty. Everyone who is aware of the ideologies and the perspective of RFK knows that he's anti-drug as much as possible. He loves holistic, natural remedies and the like. But now she's attacking him for earning a fee for working with some of these attorneys who are supporting victims of people who happen to receive vaccines. So this is it. I could see this is basically the equivalent of Elizabeth Warren attacking Trump for making money from any of his business operations. It's like, look, RFK said he's not going to get paid from any of these pharmacies, none of these drug makers, none of these medical device makers, or anything like that. But we all know where his stance is, and just because he happens to earn 10% of any potential lawsuit win for people who are seeking some form of a settlement for undesirable vaccine outcomes, she's attacking him for benefiting from that. It's like, you can't win with this lady here.
You've taken in $2.5 million. I want to know if you will commit right now that not only will you not go to work for drug companies, you won't go to work suing the drug companies and taking your rake out of that while you're a secretary and for 4 years after. It's just...
I'll commit to not taking any fees from drug companies while I'm secretary.
No, I'm asking about fees from suing drug companies. Will you agree not to do that?
You're asking me to not sue drug companies,
no,
and I'm not going to agree to that,
drug
Senator.
Companies as much as you want.
I'm not going to agree to not sue drug companies or anybody.
So let's do a quick count here.
Nice work, RFK. Way to sidestep on that one, but it's playing the Democrats' game. Now, I will admit, RFK, he did a good job of not agreeing to not sue the drug companies, but he didn't mention anything about not getting paid for it. Now, I personally don't have an issue with it, but it's like, if Senator Elizabeth Warren's able to play these games, shouldn't RFK be able to play the same games and hit that tennis ball right back to her? Yes or no, guys?
Of how, as Secretary of HHS, if you get confirmed, you could influence every one of those lawsuits. Well, let me start the list. You could publish your anti-vaccine conspiracies, but this time on U.S. government letterhead, something a jury might be impressed by. You could appoint people to the CDC vaccine panel who share your anti-vax views and let them do your dirty work. You could tell the CDC vaccine panel to remove a particular vaccine from the vaccine schedule. You could remove vaccines from special compensation programs, which would open up manufacturers to mass torts. You could make more injuries eligible for compensation, even if there is no causal evidence. You could change vaccine court processes to make it easier to bring junk lawsuits. You could turn over FDA data to your friends at the law firm, and they could use it however it benefited them. You could change vaccine labeling. You could change vaccine information rules. You could change which claims are compensated in the vaccine injury compensation program. There's a lot of ways that you can influence those future lawsuits and pending lawsuits while you are Secretary of HHS, and I'm asking you to commit right now that you will not take a financial stake in every one of those lawsuits so that what you do as Secretary will also benefit you financially down the line.
Well, guys, hold on a second here. Senator Elizabeth Warren here, ladies and gentlemen, brings us some very valid points. And I think several of these points here are why Dr. Anthony Fauci was able to get away with as much as he got away with for so long, and why he was able to make so much money off of because basically they gave Dr. Fauci like free reign to guide and steer how the United States handled, the whole COVID situation, lockdowns and whatnot. We don't even know how much money that guy ran off with, right? This is the same guy that former President Joe Biden just recently pardoned among the long list of Biden pardons. Let's not even talk about Hunter Biden getting pardoned, but that's a whole nother story. So, I mean, just keeping it real here, guys, there are some legitimate concerns that Warren does bring forth here. But this, you see, I don't have a problem with this. This is what we need to have across the board. We need to make sure that our elected officials are legitimately and full-fledgedly representing the American people and not using their position of power to manipulate the system to help out their friends and themselves. So this is a really interesting setup here. And I'm interested to see what RFK responds with.
I'll comply with all the ethical guidelines.
That's not the question. You have said
you're asking me, Senator, you're asking me not to sue vaccine pharmaceutical companies. Yeah, you are. That's exactly what you're doing.
No. Look, no one should be fooled here. As Secretary of HHS, Robert Kennedy will have the power to undercut vaccines and vaccine manufacturing across our country. And for all of his talk about follow the science and his promise that he won't interfere with those of us who want to vaccinate his kids, the bottom line is the same. Kennedy can kill off access to vaccines and make millions of dollars while he does it. Kids might die, but Robert Kennedy can keep cashing in.
Senator,
Wow, this debate clearly escalated into a very heated conflict here in this Senate confirmation hearing. Senator Elizabeth Warren is literally just shouting at RFK.
For vaccines, I support the childhood schedule. I will do that. The only thing I want is good science, and that's it.
How about then say you won't make money off what you do as Secretary of HHS?
Before we go to Senator Tillis, I think it would be important for me to make it very clear that Mr. Kennedy has gone through the same Office of Government Ethics process as every single other nominee in the Finance Committee this year and in previous administrations. In addition to listing his assets, including the items that you've identified, he has signed an ethics letter that has been reviewed by the Office of Government Ethics concerning any possible conflict in light of its functions and the nominee's proposed duties. And we have a letter from the Office of Government Ethics that he hasn't complied completely with all applicable laws and regulations governing conflicts of interest.
Mr. Chairman, point of information here. Have we had a single nominee come through who's made $2.5 million off suing one of the entities that it would be regulating and plans to keep getting a take of every lawsuit in the future? Have we had that before?
I haven't reviewed the past documentation of every other nominee's financial interests, and so no. But I know that every single time we get a nominee, their financial interests are attacked. That's why we have the Office of Government Ethics. That's why they've reviewed everything that's in his record, and that's why he has even, I think, and I don't know that I want to ask him to get into it, but he has listed his assets and has gone through a discussion of the responsibilities under our ethics laws and is complied with all.
Wow. Well, okay. They're saying he's complying. So, well, guys, this definitely escalated quickly between Senator Elizabeth Warren as well as RFK Jr. But this is par for the course. We do expect, Democrats to attack all of Trump's nominees, regardless of the level of qualification that they bring to the table, their history, their potential for conflict of interest. But let me know your thoughts, guys. Do you think that Senator Elizabeth Warren brings up some good points? Should we move forward with RFK Jr. in terms of being the HHH or HHS secretary? What do you think on this one? Hit the like button, guys. Subscribe to the channel. I really do appreciate your support. Check out our